This is Inside Badger Football with head coach Trey Shucker. Inside Badger Football is brought to you by Bell Wealth Services, Welch Funeral Home, Wingfield Properties, Southern Bancorp, Southwest Sporting Goods, Turner, Rogers, Manning, and Plyler, Taylor King Law, Trinity Temple Assembly of God, Doctors Rob and Gary Rucker, Eccles, Thompson, and Kneebone CPA, South Central Connect, Java Primo, Southwest Auto Group, R&T Dixon Enterprises, Ludwig's Bakery, the law offices of Gina White, Patterson Federal Credit Union, Batson Signs, Print Mania, Scott Bird DDS, Sexton Law Firm, Chad Kesterson Shelter Insurance, Chicken Express, Pediatrics Plus, and Providence Veterinary Care. The host of Inside Badger Football is Cooper Dar.
5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1. Put it in the books. It's official. Arkadelphia is the 2024 state champion, state of Arkansas 4A football. The Arkadelphia Badgers 28, Elkins 0. Cooper Dar, we have seen a classic, unusual in many ways, but a classic nonetheless. Arkadelphia gets the state championship.
It's a classic nonetheless, and just going out in fashion, because Arkadelphia has pitched a shutout in a state championship game. So a shutout in high fashion, but also in class as well, as Arkadelphia will start celebrating the 4A state championship, the Arkadelphia Badgers. Wow, this is incredible.
Welcome to Inside Badger Football. So exciting to see that video one more time. Coach, I saw some very excited players and coaches and everybody from Arkadelphia that made the trip and everybody that was watching and listening to the game on Saturday. What an outstanding game it was, and what a fulfillment of a lot of hard work.
It is, and the game was unusual in a lot of aspects. I heard you mention that, and it was. But man, so proud of our team for overcoming some adversity, some just any situation that you can throw out there. Our team went out there and just played a great game. Defense was phenomenal on the night. Pitched a shutout, huge. That hasn't been done in a state championship game, I believe, since Arkadelphia did it in 2018. Just a great night, one to remember and one for the books for sure.
Coach, it was a long season. It has to be if you're going to win a state championship. Yeah. 15 games, 15 weeks of games, lots of work, and before that, much work put in before the season ever starts. Yeah. I know that you're proud of how hard the players are willing to work, and your assistant coaches, and the fact that they were able to come through week after week and come up with this championship is a real testament to their willingness to work hard to achieve something big.
That's exactly right, and there's a lot of things that go into just the season and preparation for the season in general. Every season's new, every team is new, and we start putting those pieces together in the springtime and in the summer, and then even throughout the season, we're still putting pieces together, trying to put the puzzle together. That's one of the funnest parts about every year, and as a coach, putting the puzzle together. And this is a season where we were able to do it, and man, it's so exciting. But you mentioned all the work and how hard our kids work. We're very fortunate. We've got great tradition. We've got a great culture at Arkadelphia where football is important, and it starts in the spring, in our off season, and then all off season we start. End of February, March, we'll start bringing kids up early before school, and we'll do some skills and drills work, and just trying to get better and trying to get a head start on the spring, and then going into spring ball right into summer, and then early in the summer we try to go to as many 7-on-7s as we can do, and then in July we really focus on team camps, and then we have practice throughout the weeks also. So pretty much. When you really break it down over the course of a season and a year, we really only give our kids off Christmas break, 2 weeks for Christmas break, a week for spring break, and then there's 2 weeks in there in the middle of the summer for the dead period. So that's 5 weeks. We'll try to break it off and give maybe a couple days before we get started, and then maybe a couple days going into fall camp. So you just add a week. But 6 weeks off for the entire year, away from the weight room, away from practice. Other than that, 6 weeks out of the year, we're working hard and getting after it and trying to get better. And that's what really the process. I know you see the result, and the result was really good for us this year. But there's a lot of work that goes into every season, and it just feels really good that we were able to come away with a state championship this year.
Coach, we'll get into the game and look at the highlights in just a moment. First, let me say that Cooper Dar would love to be here. He is home for Christmas, and so I get to step in for him. Our crew had so much fun this year following you and your Badgers, the style of play, the extreme talent that you've been able to put in the right positions to be successful, the hard work that they've put in that we've talked about. Cooper's first year on our broadcast, he gets a state championship. I had that pleasure in 1987. I had to wait 30 years for the second one, but 3 since 2017. And the fact that you have consistently gone deep in the playoffs and now have a championship, it must kind of feed on itself that you've got guys that want to be Badgers. It
is, and that's one of the biggest things too, is our younger grades see it. Our junior high team, they see the high school go and win a state championship. Our younger grades, our peewee, our elementary kids, they see it and they say, I want to be a football player one day. I want to be a Badger one day. I want to go play for a state championship one day. And so it kind of just keeps the tradition alive and going. And that's one of the biggest things about it too for the future is just our lower levels get to see us do it, and they want to be a part of that also. And it just kind of feeds that hunger into getting ready for the next season and keeping everything alive and going.
Tell you what, let's roll the highlights and take a look. This is going to be a lot of fun to revisit this game. Here you are receiving the opening kickoff and you get started. Some of these early highlights there are going to be defensive highlights in that first half, and of course a long touchdown pass.
Yeah. I know we've said it and you'll see it on these highlights. The defense was very consistent all year, was very consistent in this game. Going up against a really, really good Elkins offense, and going into the game, Elkins offense was averaging, I think, 47.2 points per game or something like that.
Right.
Averaging 460 plus yards of offense a game, and so they're very explosive. Our defense, it was a big test for them, and our defense met the challenge. But the opening kickoff, we were one shoelace away from really breaking it open on the opening kickoff, and so got good field position. That was another thing that we knew going into the game was Elkins had a really good kickoff unit. They were really good at pinning opponents into the minus 20 or less territory. And so that opening kickoff was a really good indication of what we felt like we could do for the game. First drive didn't go very well. We moved the football a little bit, but ultimately stalled out. And the punts in the first half were not great. But our defense, we put their offense in really good field position pretty much the whole first half. But our defense went out there. I thought we tackled really, really well. We flew to the football. We trusted our assignments. We played really, really good technique and assignment football defensively.
It's a big play right here.
Yes, and that's the deal with the negative plays. They were able to move the ball a little bit. You weren't able to notice it throughout the game due to the amount of negative plays that we were able to create.
And almost an interception there. Coach, they had the ball because of the difficulties that you mentioned. They had the ball 5 times in the first half, starting on your side of the 50, and yet never scored.
I know it, and that's an interesting stat because with how bad the field position was for us, good field position for them,
right.
And still being able to keep them from scoring is a huge task and a big deal.
So here's the touchdown pass.
Yeah, Jay Purifoy has been a great receiver for us all year. This past week won 4A Offensive Player of the Year by Hootens and Far Bureau. Getting that first touchdown, getting the first points on the board was huge in the game. Just with the momentum, getting the early lead, I thought, having that happen was a big deal for the ultimate outcome, and that really standed true. Our defense went back out played extremely well. Created 6 turnovers on the night. I mean, it was a special night defensively, but getting that first score on offense was big for us.
Yeah, it really did make a difference, didn't it? I should apologize. I called Roberts instead of Purifoy on that touchdown because Orion came down to celebrate with his partner down there, and I saw the 5 instead of
their
the,
play is very
other
similar.
number.
For sure, their
Yeah.
play is very similar,
Yeah.
but Orion gets a piece of it here in a little bit in the second half.
I was corrected, so we eventually got it right there, and then a beautiful play in the end zone.
Yes, and that's Orion Roberts right there with the interception. Just made a really good play on the ball. Played the receiver really well. Was in good position. Got between him and the receiver and the football and made the play.
Coach, obviously the defensive line gets a lot of attention and deserves it. They chased the quarterback around all night, especially all through the second half. But your secondary played really close in coverage.
Yes, our secondary played its best pass coverage of the season, in my opinion. Elkins has been able to throw the ball really, really well. They've got a really good running back, as you see, he's running the ball right now. But they're very dynamic offensively. We knew that we had to stop the run. We had to tackle well to stop the run. 9 was a really good football player. And then when teams are doing that in the past, Elkins have been able to have some success throwing the football. And so we knew that our back end also had to play well, and they did a really good job of it all night.
Yeah, he's really got nowhere to throw the ball most of the time here. He winds up running or throwing the ball away. Here's a deep pass that was batted away at the last moment. He looked open, but he wasn't when it came to where the pass landed.
That's right, and it was really good. We talked about the defensive line. Our defensive line is so disruptive. Gets the quarterbacks off schedule in their reads in the routes in the pass game. We're so disruptive. We were able to get pressure all night on Elkins, and our defensive line has been that way all season, and they've progressively gotten better. I know it's kind of hard to believe that, but we've gotten better every single week of the season. We played our best football defensively Saturday at the state championship game.
As I look at the stat sheet for the defense, it's a team effort too. We're talking
doubt.
about lots of people with tackles for loss, sacks, interceptions, an amazing performance.
An amazing defensive performance. Defensive coordinator Chris Kaiser, phenomenal game plan going into it. Ben Chandler, our linebackers coach, Bobby Evans, our defensive line coach, all had a really good week of preparation and getting Elkins schemed up and getting our kids in position to make plays. And then our kids did a great job of implementing that on the game on Saturday. Our defense was ready to play.
They stopped the Elks. They took the ball away from the Elks, and they were not worried about whether or not it was cold or whether or not it was wet. They were ready to play.
That's exactly right. And there were some bad snaps throughout the game. We had some bad snaps also, and it didn't rain as much during the game as what it had pre-game and leading up to the game, but the field was really wet. I mean, it was, and so that might have played a factor into the snaps. But I don't think the rain overall had just a huge factor on the overall game as an entire game.
We just saw a simple handoff to the wide side, and like 3 Badgers are in the backfield with the running back. No chance.
No chance, and that just comes back to, for one, the scheme, 2, the reads of what we were doing within the scheme, and then the players making the play. The players doing what they're supposed to do and playing aggressive. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Our defense was way more aggressive and physical than Elkins could handle. I mean, that's just really what it came down to. Starting with our defensive line, and then our linebackers fitting it also. Like I said, there's plays throughout where Elkins looks like they're moving the football, but then it's stopped by a huge negative play, and it's just a great defensive performance overall.
All right. Some folks in the stands might have been confused about your strategy here, but it worked so well.
It did. It was what we needed. First half, our punt unit was not great. We were creating good field position for Elkins to score. Our defense just didn't allow it. And so the second half, we needed to make a change. And so we went with the field goal punt. In high school football, a field goal unit and the punt unit are both considered scrimmage kicks. And so by high school rule, they're the same.
Yeah.
And so on a field goal punt, you can put your field goal unit out there, kick from a field goal position, and we ended up wanting to kick it out of bounds. We didn't want to give them an opportunity to score or to return it. We would kick the ball as far as we can out of bounds, and that's where the ball would be spotted. And just because it's considered both the same thing, it's a scrimmage kick.
Seth Molinari has a lot of experience on kickoffs, kicking it to a specific place on the field, and so he's gifted to be able to get it down the field, but also out of bounds.
Yes, he did a great job with his kicks. We saw a big interception by Braden Wagner. He had multiple interceptions on the night, had an extreme performance, ultimately ended up being our MVP of the game. And so just talking about the defense, another defensive performance. And then we just saw Ryan Roberts able to catch a quick pass and use his speed and strength to break a tackle and just outrun the rest of the defense. Ryan's kind of been that player for us all year. We've been able to just get the ball to him quick and him just be a good athlete like he is and break tackles and outrun the defense and score a touchdown. And that was a big play for us to get to 14-0.
Right.
With how little our defense has allowed, we felt like we were in good position. It wasn't enough, but it was a good position.
Finley was there to help out. He beat the He beat the defender at the line of scrimmage, and then made one more good move to get to the end zone. And here's a beautiful play as Finley makes a nice fake on a block and then goes deep for the pass.
That's exactly right. We ran a very similar play to what we had just scored on, and the defense was over-aggressive to it, and they were kind of getting to that point. Their defense was playing really well also, playing aggressive, and so anything they knew that leading up to this game, we've thrown a lot of short passes for a lot of yards. So we faked that and ran vertical with our outside receiver, Maddox Finley. Great job executing the play and finishing in a touchdown. 21-0 at this point of the game. I remember looking up and there was 6 minutes and something seconds on the scoreboard. I knew that 21-0 was we were in good shape.
Right.
Obviously the game's not over, so we've still got to continue to play. But 21 points with how the game had gone. Our defense was playing extremely well. 21 points is a good position to be in with only 6 minutes left in the game.
I think from that point on, there were more negative yardage plays than positive yardage plays.
Yeah,
for Elkins.
At that point, they knew that they had to throw it just about every down, and our defense was able to pin their ears back, and here we come. And
Beautiful interception here.
It really was. Jacoby Campbell, defensive end, senior for us. What a play, especially the toe tap right there on the sideline. You don't see that much by a defensive end, but just shows you what type of athleticism he has and what we're playing with up front. Defensive end, like I said, he's a senior. Huge play in a big-time moment in the state championship game.
Great job here. He's not lining up in the same place he would for a field goal. He's going to kick it straight ahead so he can hook it to the sideline. And he got it out of bounds at the 10-yard line. Beautiful play.
Yeah, and I honestly think the spot was probably in favor of them. I think we probably could have been spotted a little bit further deep, but nonetheless, it's a good field position for us to play defense in, and our defense just continued to do what they were doing, just putting pressure on the quarterback. We were able to pin our ears back, and we were able to get after the quarterback and get him down for negative plays.
Coach, there may have been a few times when an offensive lineman for Elkins could have been called for holding, but bottom line is it was, except for some pre-snap penalties by Elkins, it was almost penalty-free. Only one penalty on the Badgers.
We did. We only had one penalty. It was a face mask for 15 yards, but I thought that was another contributing factor in the victory was how clean of a football game we played. And then the last play right there was a heavier formation. There's 3 minutes and something seconds on the clock. We weren't able to kneel the clock out yet. We needed to run some plays to get first downs and try to get more time off. Ran a fullback dive, fullback trap really with senior defensive tackle Nikisa Wimberly for a touchdown to make it 28-0. And then you just saw us in the victory formation, the best formation in football. Victory formation, was able to get Peyton Wesley in the game for the victory formation. Was
Wonderful.
A really big deal also.
Yeah.
And so just an exciting time to be a Badger right now. State champion, so proud of our team, so proud of our coaches. We're just so excited that we were able to get that victory, bring home the hardware, be a state champion. for obviously our program and our school, but also our community. We have a lot of support.
You bet.
Football is a big deal in Arkadelphia. We've got a lot of community support, a lot of people that reach out and want to help out in a lot of different ways, and it's just nice to be able to bring home a state championship. Obviously, like I said, for our program and our school, but also our community.
I had heard from people who had been at the other state championship games that Arkadelphia represented extremely well in our attendance at that game,
Yes.
despite the fact that before the game started, really rained pretty hard.
It was a
and yet people
downpour.
came out when the kickoff came out.
Yes, I mean it was a downpour, and Arkadelphia is known for traveling really well.
Right.
Like I said, we've got a lot of support. A lot of people show up to games. Doesn't matter where we play, and but being in a state championship game, you expect Arkadelphia to show up and be there, and they did. And like you said, going into we're going up I-30.
Yeah.
At 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it was, and I think all the interstate travelers were going about 50 miles an hour. I mean, it was really coming down. It was hard to see, and
Right.
I was like, man, if it's like this all game, it'll be interesting. But
Yeah.
It slowed down
Right.
by game time,
Right.
but it really was. It was a wet day.
Had the band there under about 9 or 10
Band
tents.
was
I
there,
think.
and we appreciated having them as well.
Yeah.
Anytime the band is there, we play really, really well,
Yeah.
and it's just adds to the atmosphere, adds to the school pride, adds to the just the support. Our kids really feed into that, and so it's always important to have the band there as well.
If you would, talk about your assistant coaches a little bit.
Yeah.
I know it's a team effort.
It is, but our coaches do a great job of buying into just our overall philosophy as a program, and then coaching to that philosophy to our players and creating the buy-in to our players. We've got a great staff of coaches that, yes, they're football coaches. We're going to coach them hard and hold them accountable and teach discipline, but also just loving our kids and creating great relationships with our kids, and that's what it's really about also. Just teaching our kids to be better young men, hopefully successful members of our community one day. And, we'll talk about Chris Kaiser, our defensive coordinator. This is his second time at Arkadelphia. He's been here for a long time, born and raised, but just
Means something they wanted to come back.
It means something, yes. He wanted to come back and be a part, and we are so glad that he did, and he's here. He does a phenomenal job. I mean, to me, I think he's the best defense coordinator in the state. Linebackers coach, Ben Chandler. He's also our special teams coordinator. Does a great job with our linebackers, as well as getting our special teams ready and prepared and schemed up. Ultimately, he's the one that made the call to go to the field goal punt, and what a great move. And then, obviously, Bobby Evans, our defensive line coach, has been here since I've been here. I was able to hire Coach Evans in 2020 whenever I was hired, and one of the biggest things that people talk about is how well our defensive line play is, and he's a big factor into that. Just creates great relationships with the kids, creates buy-in, and gets our kids coached up. And then on the offensive side, Benson Jordan is our offensive coordinator. It's his first year to be promoted up to offensive coordinator. The past couple of years, he's been wide receivers coach. Does a phenomenal job with getting our kids, coached up and ready to make the plays that they make. Offensively, we've put up a lot of points this year. Like I said, we've had the 4A Offensive Player of the Year, wide receiver Jay Purifoy, and Coach Jordan does a great job at getting those guys bought into our game plan every week, getting our kids coached up to be able to execute, and just really has done a great job in that role that we promoted him up to in that offense coordinator role.
I tell you what, it's also so important for a coach, and of course you're a young coach, but you're also a veteran coach.
Sure.
And for a veteran coach to have younger coaches that will come in and blossom, it means something for both the older coach that is working with him and for the ability of the younger coach. It's just great to see that.
It is, and we do have a younger staff that is energetic, and we're go, go, go. There's not a lot that is just buying time. I mean, we're hungry, all of us, and most of us have won a state championship, but we're hungry. Just because we won this, I mean, we're not going to be satisfied come January. I promise you, we're going to get after it. And then we still have to mention Evan Spears.
Sure.
We have a new offensive line coach this year. Evan Spears, he came to us again. He's kind of a younger coach, but man, he just created buy-in with our O-line and brought a different way of doing things and a different mindset. I thought our offensive line play this year has been phenomenal in the run and pass game, and that's been one of the biggest differences in this year and years past. But Coach Gibson in years past did a great job also. He moved on to be a principal for us at Argoza Middle School, and then we were able to bring in Coach Spears, and we're very happy to have Coach Spears as well. So it's just we've got a really unique staff and very special staff, and just so happy that we can all experience a state championship together.
Coach, let me say this as a compliment to all of you. I'm enthusiastic about winning a state championship. Mm-hmm. I'm just about equally enthusiastic about the way that you coach, because we're talking about a group of players that are learning to be men. We're talking about a group of players that know how to behave themselves on a football field. And when you are excited about a game, how your excitement shows matters. And the fact that they have been able to be good sportsmen is not a small thing. Earlier in the playoffs, we played a team that didn't feature that characteristic, and yet your team did not respond in an inappropriate way. In the championship game, I saw your players congratulating the Elkins players immediately, welcoming the fact that it was a good competitive game between those players. Even though Arkadelphia won it 28-0, they respected the other players. That means something, and that comes from good coaching. Well,
I appreciate that, and that's a goal of ours too. Yes, we want to win games, and winning is important. But there's other aspects that we're trying to teach our players. We want them to be good sports. We want them to do things the right way. And that's one of the hardest things to do, especially in today's world where there's a lot of things that in this world that are very about themselves. But teaching them the game of football, and that's why football is so important. Teaching our players to be selfless, teaching them to be a part of a team, to sacrifice for one another, to be happy for one another, and that's it just comes with the culture that you bring and how your coaches approach every day and what they coach and what they say to the kids, the relationships that they have with the kids, and that's the type of team that we had this year was a selfless team. We had a great culture, buy-in. Our kids were excited for each other. Of course, we had kids that wanted to be out there, play more than what they did, but you didn't see it, and that's what it comes down to.
You can be competitive and still have the right kind of culture.
Yes, absolutely, and you want to create a competitive culture, but having the right type of competitive culture is exactly right. And then you mentioned, being able to control themselves in tough situations, and we've seen different situations where it's not been that way, but this year was different with the type of kids that we had that were able to kind of control themselves in the way they kind of took to us a little bit and believed us in
right.
We needed to control ourselves in tough situations. There's going to be those where there's going to be teams that try to make it difficult for you in that aspect, and we've got to be able to control it if we want to ultimately win a state championship.
I think every really good teacher wants to have an effect immediately on their student and a long-term effect as well. And coaches can do that so well. And your coaches clearly, including you're clearly doing that with the team. You guys are great teachers because you can tell as you watch the Badgers play that they have learned how to play at a high level, and it assists them in being able to win football games.
Yes, and like I said, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's just not show up at the season and start coaching. It's a year-long deal, and just creating those relationships with our players throughout the off season, through the summer, into the season, allows the players to be able to be coached. And what we believe at Arkadelphia is our players will allow us to coach them as hard as we have, as well as we have the relationship with them. That's anywhere, but. So we try to do a really good job of building good relationships with our kids so that we can coach them harder.
You bet. You bet. Yeah, the relationship
the trust
allows
aspect,
that. Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Okay, Coach, I don't know if I can get you to talk about yourself, but you were the Farm Bureau Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
You did mention Jay Purifoy as the Player of the Year offensively for Farm Bureau Award also. He's a senior.
He's a senior.
Talk about Jay. Talk about your seniors.
Yeah. Jay Purifoy, senior wide receiver for us. He's been a big part of our offense really for the past 3 years. He's able to play a big role in his sophomore year last year. Obviously, his junior year was a bigger ask of him. And then this year he led us, had over 1,000 yards receiving. 13 touchdowns. It was a really, really impressive number, being most of the games he didn't play the whole game due to the score being in a mercy rule, or the sportsmanship rule. And so he really didn't finish most games this season. And then also with the other good players around him, they had some really good stats too. And so hitting 1,000 yards receiving and 13 touchdowns is very special, especially whenever the ball's going a lot of different directions. And so it was very impressive for him.
Most games you had at least 5 different receivers catching a football.
That's right.
So for him to be able to do that, and for the award to come out when he's playing half a game for most of the season, they recognize his talent level.
No doubt. And obviously we are very supportive of the decision that they made to choose him. But man, he had a phenomenal year, and so excited. And he was able to put the first points up in the state championship game, and then an explosive play that we needed, and just been really reliable for us.
Okay, Coach, so I saw a lot of alumni at the game in the crowd. You still see some still shots. People are posting left and right about how they came back for this game. Kerry Garnett came back from San Diego.
He did. I was able to meet him.
Folks were very anxious to be part of this, and have a feeling that your senior class, which has served you so well and is now about to graduate, I have a feeling they're going to remain Badgers too. No doubt, and that's the special part, and this is where you talk about tradition, you talk about culture, and the tradition really comes from moments like these. Whenever our kids, they've experienced a state championship, they know what it was like this season, they know all the work that went into it. There's a lot of pride and school pride, team pride that goes into winning a state championship, and then eventually they will graduate and move on, and they'll create their own families, and they'll talk about this season to their kids, and then kind of build it up into their kids to want to go be a Badger football player one day, and this, we're talking about 10 years down the road from now. You bet.
And but that's a culture and a tradition like we have here takes a long time to build, and you mentioning all the players from the previous state championship teams